Hey internet, it's the Kill Wolfy guy. And I'm fucking here with one of my oldest buddies, Arvin Bargy, who is also an animator, aka Zombie-Pimp from Newgrounds. And we were just gonna talk about filmmaking technique in animation. Um, my buddy here is a fucking doctor. You know, he's not like full time with animation, but still takes time to make more fucking movies than every nigga working in the fucking industry in LA. So I thought I would share some of the shit, some of the filmmaking shit that I learned at work, because there are things that you have expressed to me that like you did want to improve on, like technically and stuff like that, that nobody who wasn't like fucking chewed out by a fucking TV director would know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the most accessible trying to learn this stuff on your own, but if you're willing to go through it and give me those tips, I think it'll make my future work a lot stronger. So I appreciate it.
Hell yeah. Actually, maybe we should just play the fucking film. Let's just play the fucking
Uh,
film.
sure. Yeah, we could do that,
Okay.
and then go through it. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay. So I'm gonna just play this shit through without this music, so that everybody in the audience can see it too and can kind of get a feel for like what's going on and like what this movie is. You won't be able to hear it because we're on Discord, but they can hear it. So initially, when we first did this like a few days ago, before we decided to, or before we went into recording it, the first thing I was basically kind of like giving feedback on to my buddy here is about compositions and how they make the viewer of your film feel. Now, these things, I used to find these things to be mad fucking pretentious when I was in college. You know, everybody was railing at me about this shit because their approach to these things entailed learning it and then doing it, and I hated that. You know, like I'm the type of motherfucker who's about ramming your head into the wall and then finding out why you can't go through it. You know, so like for this specifically, I have over time learned that things like compositions and mise-en-scène and editing and timing and, you know, like figuring out like what moods you want to convey at what points heavily affects how much someone can enjoy a movie. So let's get started. So
could you give a brief definition of composition? Like what exactly falls under that umbrella?
Yes. So composition, for anybody who is not aware, is basically the way that like when you have a drawing, you know, like detail is one thing. Like there's one thing to have, like if you have like a character and this character is you know, you have like a character and they're sitting there and like here's their head and their neck, and you know they're looking like dead at the camera, and I don't know, so like this is their neck. He looks so fucking smug. So when drawing, a lot of people get focused on, you know, details when it comes to drawing and stuff like that. You know, it's like, how do I make a good drawing? Well, you gotta nail those details. You gotta draw this, and then you gotta draw this, and make sure you draw this, and yada 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 fucking yada. You know, this is what a lot of people focus on, and this stuff is cool too. I like this shit as well, but it's not. It's the reason that it can't solve every problem to add more details is because detail is not always. Doesn't always communicate your point or make people feel the way that you want them to feel. You know, like detail can, but there's so many more fucking things involved. So you can add shading, you can do all this stuff like that, and yada yada yada, you know, go through, I don't know, like I promise I have a point, but like just like you go through and you're like, I'm gonna put this type of shading here for his fucking head, and then I'm gonna do, you know, like this type of shit, and you know, go around it and all this stuff like that, and yada yada yada. And the detail can look cool, but here's the fucking problem with this goddamn image specifically that I have just drawn. So it's got detail. It's a perfectly fine, you know, drawing or whatever for how quick and dirty it is. But this drawing is lacking a secret ingredient. And some of y'all probably already know this, but like the secret ingredient, you will here's how to know if your drawing is lacking that secret invisible ingredient. Take that drawing, turn it all black. What do you see here? Is this, do you find this to be interesting, you know, without these details? You know
what I see. You know what I see.
Yeah. It obviously looks like a chode coming up from like kind of like a fupa a little bit, like a little tiny chode, you know, more head the deck.
The payoff was worth it. I was waiting for it. Now I see what you were going for.
This was not the original intention, but I'm definitely gonna take credit for it. So yeah, like, you know, if you take all this away and you show somebody this, you know, like, what are they gonna think? You're like, here's my drawing of a man, and you show them this fucking thing. They're gonna be like, okay, well, I guess if I squint, it looks like a man. But if you but like, here's the missing ingredient right here, and that is that if you instead drew this dude, with kind of a larger head, thinner neck, like this is like, y'all probably know what like silhouette is, like that's kind of like a basically like the silhouette and composition, pretty much one and the same. Composition is a part of silhouette. So you widen his pose a little bit, have him look over to the side, stuff like that, give him like a kind of larger hairdo, kind of put more like outside details. I'm not doing anything on the inside of this drawing. I'm not adding any inside fucking details or nothing like that. But I'll add like some just like little things. So this drawing I'm making right now is with the intention of going straight into being a silhouette, just like this other drawing. So I go into more details, put his legs down here. I don't know, let's like slant this motherfucker's shoulders a little bit. So just by like moving the shape, around the outside of the fucking drawing is kind of like going to add things to the drawing without you even noticing. And you're about to kind of see why. And this is why, so like, well, nah, one thing at a time. So, y'all watched me draw that, and even though the first drawing I made of the guy looking, dead at the fucking camera, like, had more detail on the inside, like it was a more detailed drawing, this one gives, like, a little bit more information. You can tell what he's doing. You can kind of tell what he's fucking wearing. You can kind of even maybe, like, see a little bit, like Arvin, what would you say? Like, can you point out, like, immediately, as a person who didn't draw it, can you see some of the difference between, like, these two silhouettes?
Yeah,
Obviously, obvious question, but yes. Go ahead.
you're exaggerating all the angles. You're exaggerating the negative space between the arms and the torso. Um, you're bending the pose more than what would be natural, like if you're trying for a realistic drawing, but it ends up communicating more information than like a perfect anatomy drawing would.
Yeah, exactly. So this is, and like, and more importantly, like a drawing with eyes, eyes, a nose, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like that shit is oftentimes, um, what people rely on when they're drawing and stuff like that to convey a point is detail. But what we don't know is that half of what we're looking at when we look at a drawing is actually the fucking silhouette. So a lot of people, like, not to suck my own dick or nothing, but a lot of the furry folk who fucking follow me on alliteration, Twitter, fucking like they have, commented that they like my poses, or like how like dynamic like the angles are, like the fucking dumb Twitter fucking trigger kind of like angles and stuff like that. And the way that I found my way to those was by learning how to implement silhouette in my art as much as I implement detail. So like, um, Arvin, you can't really see it, but I'm using my like my Twitch stream deck, so like some of my art is like kind of flying by like at the bottom of the screen. And for every one of these drawings, you can see it like this Tom and Jerry. You know, like I purposely made sure that their silhouettes overlapped each other. You know, like this one's kind of more like muddy because they're supposed to be really, you know, close like or whatever. But like, you know, something like this, like I widen the pose, you know, so that I can the silhouette hits. It's a drawing of Punk just like killing somebody. So like this is so composition is basically how you use silhouette in filmmaking. So with a composition, it functions pretty much exactly the same. It's just kind of like the silhouette of your film itself and in the scene. So let's say, for example, you have this guy and you're watching a fucking movie, and let's say this is like a human character or something like that. If where I put this character on screen, even with no background elements to the silhouette, like adding to it, has an effect on how the viewer looks at the fucking screen. For example, completely center this. Okay. So I'll put this here. Right here, him being in the center of the screen has a different effect on the audience than if I put him over here. So now I didn't move him that much, but like Arvin, like, can you kind of like, do you kind of feel like, what do you feel like the difference is without me like directly explaining it? What do you feel like the difference is between that version of the shot and like the version where he is like perfectly centered? Like, how does it make you feel, like, comparatively speaking? You know, or what does it make you think?
When he's off to the side, he's looking at something, so my eyes get sent that direction to see what he's looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when he's right in the middle, I'm less concerned with either side of him. I'm just looking right at him.
Exactly. So, and I know this shit, like, verbally saying a lot of this stuff is gonna sound really fucking obvious, but like, you would be really, really fucking surprised though, like how these little things like drastically change them. This shit could be the difference between a boring fucking movie and a riveting fucking movie, you know? So now we got this drawing. Let's just keep him in the center for the sake of example. Just, you know, for the sake of example, you know, just keep him in the center. And now we're gonna start adding to the composition. So when I do compositional stuff, or when I think about it, I separate the character from the background. Some people, when they break down the silhouette of a shot, won't really do this, but I like to fucking do it, because I think that the stuff in the background, you know, that stuff's gonna play off of the character anyway, if you do that. So we'll make a desk with we'll try and make a silhouette of a desk. Maybe add a little fucking computy back here, you know. And notice that, like, when I'm choosing where to fucking draw, I am thinking about how this thing intersects with the subject, my character in this case. Sometimes it can be an object, or, you know, the subject can be an object or a background. But what I'm thinking about is the subject. He's in the center of the screen. We're supposed to be looking at him. So the composition needs to not interrupt the clarity of his silhouette. So we'll put this here. We have it's like a computer. I'm like choosing places where specifically I can break his silhouette, because like the thing about composition, and here's the difference between composing a shot and just drawing some shit. Here's just drawing some shit. Character is standing in front of a computer. You put that computer there, that's, like you can barely see the computer. And it's like, some, like a new board artist might say to themselves, like, well, like, I was drawing a guy in front of a fucking computer and here it is. But if you do get to a point where you are breaking down the silhouette to its most basic elements, where, where's the fucking computer? How about now?
Yeah.
What if the computer's small? Like what if it's a screen that's smaller than the guy? It's like what am I looking at right here?
Right.
But even in that case, you move that shit over, you know, change the size a little bit, think about where his hand is at, like do you want to have like his hand on the computer? Do you want it to be like, stuff like this? And just try and leave gaps like what's right here between his arms and stuff like that, because these gaps in the silhouette allow you to to basically like make the shot more clear and more visually fresh. No matter what, like no matter how much fucking detail you put into this fucking shot, if you make this shot like this, like let's say like this is the fucking desk or whatever, and your drawing that you're composing is this, when you start filling in those fucking details, best believe you are going to run into fucking problems. People aren't going to know what's behind him. Like people aren't going to know where he's at. And the drawing itself, like you were talking earlier about like there were things that your taste can perceive that you don't know if you're consciously analyzing. This is the thing that your taste is perceiving that you aren't perfectly aware of. A lot of people don't fucking know about this. They don't know when they're looking at this, and that's why they like Marvel movies. So fucking anyway, I'm not gonna go on that fucking spiel. But this stuff's very, very important, and this is the surface level element of it. So this is our composition. So even beyond this, there's even more noodling you can do with this. I hope y'all will be able to fucking follow this math. But like but looking at this fucking image now, this has a very specific sort of kind of vibe to it, just based on what is here. So, would you agree? Like, do you see the guy like still leaning on the desk and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you can still kind of see it. There's something next to him. Yada yada yada. Um, but here comes the fun part in filmmaking, and God, I always hated this stuff when I was in college, because like I hated it not because the technical parts, because I had any issues with the technical parts. It was because my teachers were not people who like movies were math to them. Like they didn't really like it. Didn't feel to me like they actually like got into that technical stuff so much as thinking that like it was a mitigating. They used technical shit as a reason to not make movies. That like, or to slow down, and that's why I didn't like that shit. But
Right.
so now we're gonna get into some kind of weirder shit. So I'm gonna draw this desk and this computer again that this dude is fucking leaning on. So see, even though no, I'm gonna color all this black. But even though even though I'm not gonna go in and fill in these details, like the fact that I'm like putting this dimension like on the desk's legs are important, because people will perceive that. Because the silhouette of the desk requires it to be dimensional. The drawing is not over when you have the thing down, because this is just half the fucking battle. It looks like these are flat. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna add some fucking dimension to these. So it might look thick, but you'd be surprised what the fucking brain can pick up. And then I don't know. Like, we're not gonna do the exact same computer screen, but just do kind of generally the same steez. So we got kind of like a now we got kind of more of like a down shot going on here. Also, we don't need to have like we don't need to have these be the same color anymore. Y'all can, because this is, you're gonna want to think about the BG as well. Like you will, at very least, you can trust your details enough to separate your characters from the objects that they're interacting with in their environment. Okay, so this image right here kind of like feels a little bit different than this one, right? You can tell they're pretty much the same fucking thing, but these two ways of composing the shot kind of like insinuate something completely fucking different about this character. So like from this angle, even though the character's facing the same direction, because I gave clues silhouette wise that the camera is above him, it makes him feel different than say, right here where like everything is flat. And that's not to say that like this flat sort of like dead on thing, everybody fucking hates this, like this type of fucking thing. I fucking don't. I don't think it's a fucking bad thing. I just think that you have to do it interestingly. But when we're at work, we are told to never do things like this, like just a compilation of boxes, like center shot or whatever. But I could easily make use of a shot like this. But this one has like a different feeling. Looking down, we are now looking down at him, and because of his leg movement right here, like because of the way he's leaning, it kind of looks like he's sitting on the desk now because of this compositional element. It didn't look like he was really sitting on anything before we added that compositional element to it. Nah, it fucking does. So, that typically with a down shot, we're kind of like, seeing somebody weaker or seeing somebody doing something secretive, like they're in a position of weakness against something else or like something like that. Like if you have two characters, like even if you take this same fucking silhouette, you know, move this to the fucking side. Okay, so you got the same fucking character. These two guys, one's over here, one's over here. Your eye is probably more drawn to this guy than it is to this guy. Like this guy is off to the side, and this guy is like your eye is immediately gonna look at the center of the screen and be drawn toward wherever the composition fucking points to. And since our composition has this guy looking in this direction, we're gonna see him looking over here, and we're gonna look at this other fucking guy. But the other guy looks less important by comparison just from not being in the center of the fucking composition. And if we wanted to get even more, interesting with it, fucking if you take this guy and zoom him out a little bit, move this guy over a little bit, and then just like move this over. Now we have a completely different shot yet again. This shot kind of like, feels different than this one, right? Even though it's the same drawings. Moving that around made this so that now this guy looks like his back is turned. And he even like, well, actually, no. As the person I'm talking about this to or lecturing, how does this image make you feel compared to this image?
Well, this one has more of a foreboding, like there's some tension. There's more of a like power struggle between the two, like something's about to happen between the two.
Yeah.
And the other one is just like he's just kind of looking at looking at the other one. The fact that they're not looking right at each other. There's a lot less energy between them. There's a lot less of an interaction between them.
Yeah. Who do you think the aggressor in this situation is?
In this shot, it's the bigger person.
Yep.
The other person's kind of back is to the wall. They're smaller. They're on the receiving end of the kind of exchange.
Yep. Exactly. And that is the purpose of all the stuff that filmmaking does. And this stuff is more, it's kind of easier to focus on this stuff in photography because with photography, you're not making everything from scratch. You know, you're not worried about like, oh, is this wall that I'm drawing like detailed enough? You know, like in photography, does this look like this thing? But when people who enjoy photography, such as myself, after I learned storyboarding, you know, this is how deep this shit went into my fucking brain. I started like really, you know, paying attention to this stuff in live action images and looking for my inspiration for compositions in photography because you can't control the compositions of the world nearly as easily, you know? Now, taking this, putting him here, same drawing still creates a different sort of mood than what was happening before. In this case, there's many ways that you could read this shot, but if it were me personally, you know, it's like this guy. Let's even add a happy little other guy back here. So remember, we're breaking up the silhouette. So you see how their silhouettes are interacting. It makes it hard to know what you're looking at when the silhouettes are, you know, intersecting like this. It's not a bad thing, but you should use it carefully. When silhouettes are intersecting, it takes importance out of specific subjects in the shot. You know, so if you want one thing to stick out or to seem significant, you should try and break up its silhouette. So, like, I moved this guy back here to kind of separate him from the other elements in the image, and then we'll put one more guy back here. So even this creates a different feeling than before. And because this character is still in the center of the frame, we still know that the shot is about him. But we feel differently about him because everything in the composition, everyone in the composition is looking at him and he's center frame and he's, you know, what he's playing off of here within the fucking environment. He's touching it. He's in the center. This dude is doing a lot compositionally to draw attention to him. And this is what is important in composition because, like, you can have a shot where a guy is surrounded by people, but there's a fucking difference between, say, like, you know, okay, we have this shot, and then we cut to other people, you know, like the same guy is like fucking surrounded or whatever, but then let's say we like cut between these two shots. You know, to these other people or whatever, and we're like, hey, you know, like here's who he's fucking talking to. So we have one shot of him him talking in this shot, and then we cut to this shot of three people that he's fucking talking to. And then during this conversation, they're like, you know, it's like, hey, you know, like let's say this is I don't know, this is me and like 3 clones of Arvin, and I'm like, hey Arvin, I think that fighting games are more about being a stupid dumbass than, you know, like problem solving. And then I cut over here and the 3 Arvin clones say, no, problem solving is, you know, is part of the fucking fun. You know, like yada yada yada. And I'm like, well, I don't have fun fucking doing that shit. With none of this shit is completely fucking true. Like I like both. But like, you know, just for the sake of example, like, you know, like I like this fighting game. Well, I like this fighting game. Well, I like this fighting game. Well, I like this fighting game. That's different than having like this shot where I'm surrounded by the Arvin clones on screen and I don't cut away. They have the whole conversation in this fucking shot. And the cool thing about composition and why it helps with filmmaking, even if you're an indie cat who's trying to get things done quickly, is because honestly, like I personally would rather watch I would rather look at one really interesting shot that has like a lot of shit going on visually for a longer period of time than to look at like a flat ass shot cutting to another flat ass shot and then back to another flat ass shot. Like cutting does not create fucking visual interest unless the visual interest exists already within the fucking frame. So keep that in mind. An interesting shot can be reused and abused like fucking crazy. People don't fucking realize that shit. People don't realize how much shots are reused in films to make things visually interesting, or how long, you know, a shot with a good composition can stay on screen. These characters keep acting and they keep interacting with the environment and talking and stuff like that. This shot's gonna stay fresh because there's just as much shit to look at in this shot as there was between these 2 fucking shots. But these 2 shots are not that interesting on their fucking own. So this is what composition fucking does. You know? Like it is the cornerstone to making decent movies, you know, even though like everybody's hung up on story. Like you won't even care about the story if the visuals don't fucking captivate you, but most people don't know why visuals aren't captivating them. So that's composition. Yeah. So that's what I'm going to get into first with all this shit.
Yeah. I feel like I would use either approach depending on what I want at that time. But I think both have a role in filmmaking, like the back and forth flat shots.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mostly around, from my perspective, around economy. Like I want to get this film done, and will it still work if I do back and forth shots, or do I need something more dynamic? And then if I'm going to do with something more dynamic, how much longer will that take me? And then I decide, is that worth enough like style points to invest in that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I kind of make like the calculation about whether it's worth it to do it or not. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted one important nugget you gave there that I had never thought about before is how overlapping silhouettes is a tool to decrease the importance of an object on screen.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something you should never do. It's something that you should do when it should be done.
Exactly.
And I feel like I've done that subconsciously in the past, where I've done like one man versus an army type fights, where I'll intentionally have like a horde of enemies that are like all the same color, but then the main character doesn't overlap with that horde, whereas they overlap with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But I never realized why I was doing it. But I think if you start thinking about it that way, that overlapping isn't, like in photography, you really shouldn't, you're always trying to make your shot in a way where you don't, they call it mushrooming, right? Where it looks like there's a mushroom growing out of like your dark subject's head because there's a dark branch in the background that looks like it's coming out of the side of their head.
Yeah.
And that's bad photography, right? But when you understand that that's a tool and you can use it in a very smart way, then you can actually kind of break the rule in a way that ends up working.
Absolutely. This is when I was talking earlier about how like I was like, oh, I could take this shot and make something interesting out of it. You know, that's what I was fucking talking about. You know, like is like the way that things, there really are no fucking rules. However, if you want to make something visually interesting, you should at least try. You know, like you don't have to do everything according to like, you know, the most basic math of like what it might make somebody feel. Oftentimes, you know, there are no fucking right answers. And you're right. Like editing, we want to get real fucking galaxy brain about it. The composition of what shots you choose in sequence and how they put the whole scene has a composition. You know, like it's not just each individual shot or each individual frame or drawing. The whole scene has every scene has a composition, and every movie has a composition comprised of the scenes and the moods of the scenes and how the movie as a whole makes you fucking feel. You know that shit already intuitively. You have filmmaker instincts because you fucking make movies. Like you will learn these things from fucking making movies. But yeah, there are uses for that, because like if you have a scene where you have a character, you know, like let's say like you know, this character's talking to these guys and he's like, you know, these guys come into his office and they're like, you know, hey Richard, we've decided that, you know, you're a fucking, like, we think you might be a fucking furry. And he's like, no, I'm not. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. You know, like that type of thing, like, could be funny for cutting back and forth between two shots like this, because it's like you have two characters just be like, no, I'm not a fucking furry. You know, yes, you are a fucking furry. Like that could be something like funny, you know. And sometimes those types of things, like, it depends on the situation, because you could have that happen in this shot, you know, because the funny part would be we keep the camera on Richard as he unravels, trying to, you know, like basically like convince his friends that he's, you know, not a fucking furry, you know, or whatever is going on. So there's lots of different answers to all this shit. Absolutely right. Yeah.
I think like the way to summarize that is like, it's not about don't like learn the rules and never break them. It's about understand that, like, learn the rules, understand that breaking them leads to things like confusion or inattention or discomfort. And then if that's what you want your viewer to feel in a moment, then break the rules so that they feel that way.
Absolutely agree. Yeah. Like,
yeah. And the one other thing I wanted to add was, you brought up that a lot of these principles are photography principles. And maybe it's important to try and like buy a camera or go out and try to learn some photography before you make your next cartoon. Maybe it'll make you better animator if you do that. Do you think that's like advice you would give someone?
Yes. Yeah. I do it myself, because like if I see now, because of this shit, if I see interesting shapes out in the world or interesting compositions, I take pictures of that shit. I think that anybody who wants to get better at storyboarding and better at composing their films should take their phone camera out and try to figure out how to make mundane shit look interesting. You can make anything look fucking interesting, but it depends on the way you fucking shoot it. You can easily make something mundane look interesting, and I think that's a great idea. I didn't even think to bring that up, but you're right. Yeah.
I think it's funny that I kind of exposed myself a little, because I'm like, go buy a camera, and you're like, use your phone camera, you idiot. Like, don't go waste money, you know?
Yeah, like, yeah, because whether you have a good camera or not, you know, like your fucking compositional skills when you take shots are gonna be fucking the same.
Yeah, no, you're right. You don't have to go buy a camera. Just use your phone, assuming you have a phone, and it's the same principles.
Yeah, because like a well shot photo with an interesting composition, interesting subject, shapes that play off of each other really well, is going to be way the fuck more interesting than an expensive shot, which I know you weren't insinuating that it was or anything, you know, just to just to let people know like how powerful this shit is that like having a nicer camera or something like, you know, like a high powered tool is more like adding detail. But composition works no matter how fucking broke you are.
Right, exactly. No, that's true. Okay. I think that's another pet peeve of mine that I hear other people do. And I'm bad for this too sometimes, where it's like, oh, like, if I just figure out like what tech JazLyte's using, and I just go buy that. I just gotta go buy the right tech, and like that's the reason I'm bad. Like I just need the right equipment. Like they'll spend like 10 hours researching tech and equipment for every hour they practice, and it's like, dude, like what? Like that's not the reason you're bad, you know? Like, so I think that's just a pet peeve of mine that I'm guilty of too sometimes, and I have to snap myself out of it.
Yeah, you know, and it's understandable because like this is a thing that you have limited time for, you know, so it's understandable like why people would go to that in general. But yeah, you know, like these things are fucking universal. No matter what you're drawing with, taking a picture with, or something like that, you move this shit around, it's gonna you move the composition around, automatically makes the fucking image look different. You know, this is a completely different fucking drawing, regardless of the details. This drawing is gonna make a motherfucker feel different, you know, than the last one. Like,
yeah, the room's way bigger now.
Yeah, like they're fucking like further away from them. Stuff like that. You know, this creates a different fucking image. You know.
Yeah, you change it dramatically with just how you position things.
Yeah, so that's what composition is. So that's mainly what I'm going to be focusing on. You know, because from my perspective, you know, like I said, like I am personally of the opinion that motherfuckers should not fuck with this until they feel fucking ready. If doing this makes filmmaking not fun for you or slows you down too much, don't fucking worry about it. Like, it's more important that you enjoy making art and do things that are fun for you than it is to do this shit, because knowing this shit and then never wanting to make movies because of your brain is overloaded with concepts, you know, and it intimidates you, results in no fucking movies getting made. So just do what you gotta do, you know. But if you are interested, come back, think about it, try it, take a little bit of it, try a little bit. I drip fed this shit to myself because like I wanted to make movies more than I wanted to be good at making movies, you know, and it worked for me. And I still ended up learning this stuff. So let's get to your movie.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, let's start breaking these shots down.
Yeah.
So just I think, I don't know if we've mentioned this yet, but you've already kind of broke down the first 3 shots. But
yeah.
But we'll still go through them because it'll be helpful, I think. Like I've already heard this advice, but I think it'll be nice to just quickly review what you had to say about the first 3 shots.
Absolutely. Let me bring up. I'm gonna use Toon Boom this time instead of Flash, but like I'll bring up the ones that we did before. So, in lieu of everything that we just got done talking about, a few days ago when we were kind of like deciding to do this thing, I went through Arvin's shots that are in his fucking film and kind of like talked about like how to, you know, like ways that these shots could be plussed up to be a little bit more visually interesting. So this shot, for example, is our opening shot. Now, an opening shot in a movie should not be fucking taken lightly, okay? At every moment that somebody is watching your fucking film, you need to be giving them a reason not to fucking turn that shit off. And people don't turn off films because they're bad. They don't turn off the film because the filmmaker did a fucking bad job. They turn off films because they don't give them a fucking reason to keep that shit on, you know? So like, even a shot like this is a dope drawing, you know? Like the character drawing is really good. But it's just he's just kind of like he's staring at something, and it's fine for it to be mundane like this because like in the film you have him kind of like, you know, he's about to get hit by the car. There's the impact that's coming, and it's good for it to be mundane because he's doing something mundane. But my issue with this shot is the composition itself, because when you take all the detail off of it, this is the composition. It's very hard if the person who was looking at this did not know that this was a car, you know, like the background composition and stuff like that does not convey that. You know, like it's kind of it needs like a little bit more information silhouette wise. So I just kind of went to that shot and was like, here's another like mundane kind of shot, but you can see more info. You can see more of him. You can, you know, we have the open window here, so we have room for the car that's going to T-bone him at the end, you know, later in the shot. And we can still see that it's him. You know, it's still mundane. It's still flat. It's just like this, like we can see like, you know, the windshield wipers would be moving right here. You know, we would see like the fucking sun visor, you know, like we got the fucking rear view mirror right here. You know, we can see more of the steering wheel shape, can kind of see the chair. So we're getting more of this character and more info about him, you know. And in this case, for this shot, now not that this is like, not that y'all would have to make this decision. This is just a decision that I would have made. But like in this shot, to me, I would not have mirrored like the fucking like the approach with this shot. Like this shot mirrors this shot in a fucking way. You know, like it's about the same in composition. And like kind of like effect. So I thought, you know, like if it were me personally, I might have done that shot kind of more like this. In the movie, he lands in the bed, right? But my issue with that is that like I guess like even still we need like something like that kind of says more about what's going on here, sort of, you know. So like I did this one just kind of like as a mock-up to where I put, you know, the colostomy bags and like, you know, all the different like tech and stuff like that, and like the things on the ceiling are all kind of above him, and you have him like centered, but there's lots of, you know, there's all these things like keeping him where he is. You know, he's a vegetable right now, you know, and there's all these things kind of like in the composition that are like kind of jailing him, so to speak. And I know if you've never had any relationship with this shit, this shit's probably gonna sound mad fucking pretentious. I thought it when my fucking teachers told me it. Make movies how you need to until it makes sense. You know, like it will one day. You will care about this one day. When you get bored, you know, but with how your stuff looks. But like, yeah, like, you know, you can see a lot more stuff going on here. You know, the wires look like they're kind of like constricting him. We got more information about his body, stuff like that. And the next shot is the girlfriend. And I was thinking like, you know, maybe like a down shot here as an option here. None of these are the right answer. They just are a way that you could put more visual interest on screen in this situation. So those are the ones I've done already based off of the stuff that I just, you know, kind of like went through with all this shit. So now I'm gonna fucking close Flash and open up Storyboard Pro, because that's what I use the storyboard. It has a lot of tools to make this shit easy at the earliest phases. Let's see. Just gonna open the window capture for Storyboard Pro.
Yeah, I think at the essence what you're doing here is, rather than each shot just being the point of each shot being just to convey what's happening, you're thinking of each shot as its own work of art. So you think about all the decisions you'd make before you try to make a painting, or some kind of art you would upload to Divine Art, and that's all anything is, and you make all these decisions about the camera angle and all that, try and think about each shot of your cartoon the same way.
Exactly. Because truth of the matter is, and this doesn't mean that you need to spend a lot of time needling it. Like, adding more time to stuff like this, like, counts as adding superfluous detail. Usually, you can bang out a good composition, you know, just by focusing on that composition for a little bit. Like, adding more time and detail to a composition does not necessarily make it stronger, you know, either. So, like, yeah, there's you want to think of every shot like, yo, if somebody was looking at this shot just like alone, would they want to fucking watch this movie if they saw this one fucking shot in isolation? That's what you want to be aiming for, shit that's that visually interesting.
Yeah.
And don't.
Yeah, I agree. Especially for the first shots where you're really trying, like, you can maybe back off more during the middle, but certainly the first few shots is like, that's where you want each scene to be like its own work of art.
Yes. Yeah. And like, or, you know, just like how, like, however much you need it, you know, like there's because like putting too much detail into something, into one part, and then like having it not play well off of everything around it can also be can also fuck you up. So
yeah. Do you think there's a danger to over composing your shots?
Yes, I do.
Like I think of like a lot of stuff that comes out of like Gobelin, or like those like the thesis film, right?
Yeah.
Where every shot is just so like twisty and so much. There's so much forced perspective and fish eyes and you know, and like there's just so much in every scene. Like every scene is beautiful, yeah. But then all of a sudden none of it's beautiful because it's like you get desensitized to it after 5 minutes.
Absolutely, completely agree. That's the shit.
Like when every single scene has so much impact, all of a sudden nothing has impact. It's like Marvel vs. Capcom, where like every character's broken, so no one's broken. Like why do I care? You know?
Exactly.
Like everyone has infinites. Just pick one. You know?
Yeah, like that, and that's what we were talking about earlier with like how the movie itself has a fucking composition. You know?
Right.
A scene has its own composition. A movie has its own composition. And all that stuff is very, very important for how these things play off of each other, you know. But in the case of like, it's all about just like adjusting dials. And I know that like the no right answers part, you know, kind of like people don't love that, you know. But it is when you just like making movies, it's good to just think about it for a minute, you know, as you're doing it. It'll make your film way the fuck more interesting to think about it for a minute than not at all. You know,
yeah,
and you did think about it. Like you have thought about it. You just like there might be specific things you miss because you are making movies without, you know, like the voices of directors like ringing in the back of your fucking head about like compositional tangents and shit like that. But you know what's up because you were thinking about like what each of these shots made you feel, and they do work to an extent because of that.
Yeah, I feel like if I succeed at something, it's by accident, and like there's nothing noble about that. Like, oh, I'm just such an indie that like I refuse to learn, like, you know, like those you know, there's nothing noble about like refusing to learn and only being good by accident, you know.
No, that's bullshit. There totally is, because I don't think you understand. Like, there's a lot of people who work in TV, like with me, who like you have more. I'll put it to you this way. There's niggas who work in the industry who didn't start animating until they fucking got to college. Not that there's anything wrong with this. It's just a thing that fucking happens. You've been animating since you were fucking, 14, 15 years old? There is nobility in that, because what you know about filmmaking was learned hands-on. And when you know this stuff, it's gonna retroactively enhance every other fucking skill that you have and know. So there's a nobility on it. You just can't see it because you're not you, or because you are you. But I'm not you, and I can fucking see that shit.
I appreciate that.
But yeah, so all right, so we talked about like composition and stuff like that, and so now let's talk like a little bit more about what like the flow of shots, because like if you go through this, you know, I don't need to like recompose every fucking shot that you fucking have here to kind of make the point of composition, and we're just making a little video anyway, so you get the point. And you get that point because you've been animating for fucking 17 years. Not, you know, like there's the nobility. Most people would not understand that. So here's an example of how shots play off of each other. So this right here, you have him land like here. Like
I don't see I don't see it right now. I just see your storyboard.
Oh, right. Okay, so I'm basically looking at the part where you have your character like landing in the fucking bed and stuff like that, and it lands in another bus shot. But the closer up a shot is, the less opportunity for compositional like visual interest in the composition you have, and the less room for visual interest you have, sometimes the less impactful a shot can be, depending on what fucking came before it. So if you have this as a shot where like this nigga literally died, you know, and the way that you have him come from his car into the bed was actually an interesting decision. Like, I think that like that decision holds weight. However, what is the issue with it is that it didn't make what happened to him really hit. You know, like we didn't see any of, like, after we saw him get hit, if you have a visual hook, I like to call like the first, like a visual hook, like something that like is a reason to fucking keep looking at the movie, and you have like this first shot, your visual hook in the first shot of him, of this like being this mundane, and then having something like big and horrific happen to him in this man's mundane moment in his fucking life. We need more info afterwards. If the first shot's gonna be that flat, you gotta show us something else. You know, like we should really see. I mean, this is kind of like a fucking cliche, but the reason it's a cliche is because it is the most quick, like, mathematical, like, version of like how to like get this idea out. So
yeah, cliches exist for a reason. It's because they're
this cliche is like of the down shot where you have like a, you know, you have like the fucking the guy down here, you know, he's been hit, the car is like, maybe the car is like toppled over, you know, or it's like scrunched up or something like that.
Yeah.
And you know, something to really just be like, to really like let people know how nasty, you know, the thing that happened to him really fucking was. And I know you wanted to cut to the hospital room, and I do think that it was a good, like, a solid creative decision. However, putting it there without putting much more than that, you know, like to really like sell it compositionally, really kind of like it took some of the impact out of it, you know.
Right.
So it's not to say you had to do this shot specifically, you know, this isn't like a right answer, so to speak. I don't know, maybe he got knocked through the fucking windshield or some shit and he's like laying on the fucking ground.
Yeah, no, I totally see what you're going for here. I think I can see the power of it.
Yeah, because like you're seeing the fucking impact, and what you're actually seeing the power of is a fucking wide shot. If I had to give any direct criticism to like your work specifically, is that I don't think that you use enough fucking wide shots, in my opinion. Now, people's opinions differ greatly on this, you know, as to like whether they think that like, you know, people like a lot of people like tend to like their movies a lot closer and more cozy, and because your characters, we are looking, you know, like getting close to him and like kind of like getting to know him on that level, you know, using close-up shots predominantly can definitely, you know, can and I think actually does do you some fucking favors in the film. But the issue here is the amount of information and impact, and can you make us interested in all of these close-ups that you used? You know, that's really the part that is, you know, of importance, or like that will like really beef this shit up. Is like, you know, you showed us the visual hook of a man having like his mundane day or whatever, you know, until he gets hit by a car. But like adding a wider shot allows you to put other shit here, you know, like maybe he wrecked a fucking fence when he spun out from this fucking T-bone, or like there's a goddamn, you know, stop sign bent over right here, you know, or something like that, and like we see like rubble and debris. But like, even though you made good drawings, you know, for the part like for like the shot like right after his mundane car shot, the drawings and the details are kind of just only gonna hit the person who's looking at it for like a split fucking second. But something like this, where we like can see the catastrophe of what happened in some kind of fucking way, you know, will definitely like make your mundane shots out of being just mundane and becoming personal and endearing, you know?
Yeah, I use you're right. I think I use way too many close-ups, and I maybe only have like 2 or 3 wide shots in a movie. Maybe. I'm very rarely will I use a wide shot, yeah.
And in the industry, we say, when in doubt, pull it out. Like, pull the camera out, you know?
There's other people who say that.
Yeah, absolutely are, yes.
In other contexts.
It'll fucking help you to remember that shit, too.
Yeah, I know. And I think, like, even if I didn't have this shot, if I just had the scene the way you had it, where, what did you really do? You just zoomed out from when he's even driving in the car. Then when he's flying through the air, you'd see more of his limbs spinning. You'd see how far he goes.
Yeah.
A lot. Yeah, I could even have him flying a bit. Whereas because it's so close up, you don't see his legs, you don't see his hands, you just see like the first bits of his arms. You don't see as much glass flying through the air because he's taking up so much of the screen. I think there's so much more you could do if you just zoom out with that shot. That would almost solve almost every problem that you've identified so far, just by zooming out.
Hell yeah. Fucking exactly. And like, you know, from that, that is like, yeah, it is. Oh my god, I lost my fucking train of thought. Wait, I'm crashing. Yes, you are absolutely right though, because we couldn't see his fucking legs and stuff like that. You can even have this be the same shot. Oh, I remember what I was gonna say. What you just described, if you had gone into more detail, you know, like let's say even within the same shot, we see him, you know, like we pull out just like a little bit, you know, we do like a forced Sakuga perspective or whatever, you know, to where like now our composition, you know, starts to shift a little bit, and you can do anything with the car or the details to make this fucking happen.
Yeah. Oh man.
Just like,
you could even have his limbs twisting the wrong way.
Right.
Like you could do whatever you want. Yeah, that would really have. Yeah. Shit. Why not? Right.
My nigga, I'll tell you right now,
man.
more than. Wow. And like the details that you did in that animation, your animation is better than this drawing. Like it like detail wise, like it's more worked, it's got more, you know, time and skill put into it. But like even in the composition, you know, like in this silhouette, you can still kind of like tell what's going on, you know, like better to an extent. Like we have him like, you know, fucking crashing out of the fucking windshield or whatever, and like
just by zooming out solves so many problems.
it gives you an opportunity to add more fucking information that will make a shot more potent. And
I wonder why it doesn't occur to me to zoom out more. I don't like, why doesn't my brain, I mean, I'm gonna start doing that more, but why did it take so long to have this epiphany? I wonder.
I mean, I didn't either, because we both do you want to know the real fucking answer? It's because we're fucking weeaboos. Anime does this all the fucking time. Anime does not use enough fucking wide shots. You know, it's so economical that they often choose very, like, people are like, oh, anime's fucking stiff because they need to, like, you know, I don't know, like save budget or something like that, you know, to do something or whatever. But that's not the only reason that anime can look fucking visually uninteresting. Real talk, anime has kind of a problem, has an epidemic of really, really boring compositional filmmaking. You know? But like, you start focusing on this stuff before you go into the fucking details. Are you starting to see also why I said, like, go ahead and finish the movie and then I'll tell you about this shit? Because like, these details, you're focusing on getting the movie done, and you're focusing on like all these like details and stuff like that, you know, to get it done and going straight to it. But like, this stuff is stuff that like does not require draftsmanship skill. It doesn't require a lot of time. It just is, you know, like a different way of approaching that will kind of like give you different fucking feelings about what you're fucking looking at.
Yeah, you're right. And you're right, it is anime. It's because I learned by watching and trying to imitate anime, and they don't do this enough.
Yeah. Fucking like Marvel movies are capable of being completely absent of this. And motherfucker, you know, like, this bothers me, and I can't really like explain it to people because I know how this shit made me feel when I first started. I was like, that's extremely fucking pretentious. But then there was shit that was visually uninteresting that I saw that I did not like, and I could not fucking explain why. But like, you know, look at this. Like, we didn't put any fucking details into this or whatever, but like, even like, just like, you can.
Yeah, I would choose this shot. I would choose this shot over the one I did any day. Yeah, there's just so much. Yeah.
Got the car flying back here. And
you got his limbs mangled. You've got so much more information. Yeah. Wow.
And because the depth and the perspective of the road and this little fence that I fucking put here, is like, because of the way that the perspective is angled, everything in the shot is compositionally pointing at him. So because of that, you also now have a more clear shot because you have more opportunity to use the environment and the silhouette of the environment to like really like give clarity to the character. This is the point of wide shots and why I value them so much more, you know, now having like been like a professional filmmaker for like fucking almost a decade. It's like this shit, more and more wide shots appear in my fucking movies because of this shit, you know?
Yeah, no, 100%. It's so obvious now.
And here's another thing too. Check this shit out. Like, you want to talk about a part where like a close-up could like really, really do some fucking damage or something like that? Check this shit out. And this is about the composition of the scene in general. Let's say you got your fucking character. He goes through the fucking window, and then he comes out on the other end, and like he skids on the fucking road. Cut to a fucking close-up shot. Right here.
Mm-hmm. And then he's in his hospital bed.
Actually, I was gonna say something different.
Okay.
But we will definitely get to that part because that's direly important to the film as well. So imagine we cut to a close-up shot. Now, here's what you pointed out, and you knew this because you've been making movies. This is why you fucking understood this, and this is the nobility in being a fucking indie and just doing it. You're just, nigga, all you are, like, as a fucking indie filmmaker who's made dozens of fucking films, like, over all these fucking years, but not, like, making it, like, what you pay rent off of, and, like, not knowing a lot of fucking technical stuff, you're just a nigga with a bunch of, did you play Final Fantasy X?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just a nigga with a bunch of sphere points that you haven't used on the fucking sphere grid yet, but you've still been fighting. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm teaching you how to use the fucking sphere grid, and you're gonna level up instantaneously. So you see this fucking hand. Now, this hand, this is a pretty flat, mundane, you know, like a pretty flat, like kind of close up kind of fucking shot or whatever. Let's put like the, like I said, we have like the fence flying by, and this is also important. Like, notice how I'm using like the fence to like kind of like enhance, like trying to like using background elements to make your character stand out more. You know, it's like really fucking important.
Right.
But like you see this fence, you know, off in the distance. We got like a fucking sign back here, zooming back here, and then you got this. You cut to this shot, which is a close-up, and this composition is not extremely detailed. However, I'm gonna make this a different color, so because I don't think this is gonna. Sorry, one sec. Okay, so a person cuts to this fucking shot. You got your fucking close-up here. Sorry, these bones are not going to be fucking accurate, but...
Oh, I see. You could add some gore.
Yeah, just on this like close up, just to show. And I'm not saying that this is like your goal, you know, to fucking do this, but like this is the power of shots playing off of each other.
Right.
You know, you got this hand here, and even though this shot itself, in isolation, may not be extremely fucking interesting, but you see this shit fucking happen. Actually, I'll just finish drawing and then you'll fucking see. I'll show you. Okay, so now let's take a look at this fucking sequence of images. So we got no fucking details going on here, but you know the story. You're the director, so you know you got your guy driving here in his fucking car. We got this, this is basically our composition. It's just like flat, bus shot, guy in car gets T-boned, like comes out of here. Shot, composition is changing. The animation is a form of detail. It's not thinking. It's the brute force part of it. So he crashes through the fucking window. You can use animation to change the composition, to give a different feeling. So this is all the same shot. He continuously falls this way until he gets here. And he's about to hit the ground. Cut to a close-up of his hand about to hit the ground. Like that type of shit. Then we cut to like a wide shot, like him finding his way to this fucking shot, from where he was at before.
Yeah.
Take the other car out of here. You just skid it on here, so here's where we got our fucking main guy at. So this is the same, pretty much the same shot. We got our fucking main guy, so now we're continuing here, and then now, in this case, you might notice, now I'm drawing the car right now, you might notice that the car is off to the side and I'm not really giving it too much silhouette. And this is because focusing on the guy in this shot more so than the car itself allows for you to kind of make the car seem bigger, seem more out of his fucking control.
Right.
Now we got the car flying in,
yeah,
and then all the other shit, from before that, rains into the fucking shot. So the composition is constantly in flux, and unfair though it may seem, not to you, because you are really about making movies, but unfair though it might seem when you're new, such as when you were me when I was learning this stuff, have all the shit blam, that comes in, that changes the composition and makes the composition more chaotic and more disheveled as the tension turns up. He flies in, skids, you know, falls, car comes in, hits sign, hits the wall, you know, other guy comes in, and then we have our final scene with all the shit that happened. All that information that you gave away adds to it. You know, like it allows people to really like take a good look at all the horrific shit that you want to show them, you know?
Yeah.
Yep. So, and we're looking down on him, so like it kind of like makes him look weaker. This is the kind of shit we're talking about when we're talking about shots and even like beats within a shot playing off of each other. But like focusing on this stuff in broad strokes is really how you like move towards making a good movie without even trying that fucking hard.
Yeah.
So that's that part. Yeah, so let's see if there's anything else. Because, like, honestly, I would say, like, oh, we could, like, go down and break down the whole movie. But I know what's going through your head right now. You probably looked at this already and are probably like, oh, I could probably, like, look at every shot and see places where I could have, you know, like, done more information and stuff, right? You know?
Yeah. I guess, like, if there's other scenes where there's a fix that uses principles you haven't focused on as much,
Yeah.
if you think that like another scene that like made a different mistake or like a mistake that warrants discussion that wouldn't be repetitive,
Yeah.
might be a good next step.
Sure. I'm taking a look at it right now. Let's see. Okay, so we already talked about this part. We came up with some interesting shit for this. Once again, no right answers. You know, just think about how. Keep fucking with it until it makes you feel super interested in what you're looking at, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So, okay, here's a part that we can fucking talk about. So, you can't see this shot, but like I'm at the shot where he comes in and like we see his ghost like leaving his body.
Yeah, I was trying to make it look like he's coming up for air after like being underwater.
Yeah.
So I focused a lot on the timing where it's like he's like breaking through the water barrier and finally taking a breath, and then he's kind of just trying to figure out where he is and like what he is. So he's looking at his hand.
Yeah.
So I was trying to do a lot of character acting here.
Word. Yeah, makes perfect sense. The scene works. You know, we're just gonna add some fucking beef to this shit. So in this fucking shot right here, you have him like it cuts to him just kind of like the girlfriend's there. We see like the astral kind of like conceptual spirit versions of them or whatever, you know, and he's the statue and he comes out of here. And
yeah,
you wanted it to have it like look like he's kind of coming up for air or for something like that. And the shots you chose, they get the job done. They work. You know, it comes through. But if you really want somebody to like really feel something, it doesn't fucking hurt to slow the fucking movie down and focus on some fucking little things. Okay, so like instead of like having him like you have one shot where he comes out of, you know, the stone thing. The stone version of himself. I gotta fucking piss again. I'll be right back. Also, it's a good time to save a version of the video too. Hold up.
all right.
Okay. So, if you really want to, like, kind of like really make a person feel a fucking situation, make them fucking look at it for a long ass time. Now, I know that, like, as a Newgrounds animator, you know, you're probably like, or like a lot of cats will be like, oh, not you specifically, but like a lot of cats will be like, oh, you know, like making somebody look at something for too long could easily be boring. But looking at shit for a long time is only boring if the timing is boring and what's on screen is boring. Or like, you know, like it's, or like if it, not even that it's boring, but like if it doesn't really like use the space that it has on screen to really do something. So instead of those shots, instead of that shot of like him coming up as a ghost, specifically right the fuck there, let's try a shot of his hand. So this is my man's fucking statue hand or whatever.
Right.
This is a part of the statue, so we got the stone and shit like that. What if, instead of what we had before, we cut to his hand and just like a little bit, just like a teeny tiny little bit, for a minute in the shot, we have just the hand, and then like maybe we see like just a tiny twitch of spectral finger come out here, like just like, you know, like when somebody's like waking up from a coma, or they might be waking up in a panic, just like a teeny tiny little floop, you know, like something like that.
Right. Oh yeah, no, that works really well. Yeah, you can tell, even though it's, you wouldn't think so, you can clearly tell that that's like a spectral finger.
Yeah, you know, cut to I don't know, like even like his foot or something like that in the bed, you know. This looks like a fucking boner, but you know, we would see, like, in silhouette it looks like a boner, but like in practice we would see, you know, everything else in the fucking shot or whatever. But
feet look like boners a remarkable amount of the time.
yes, they fucking do. Yeah. He's like missing this one leg, so like he'll fucking like, you know, we see the sheet or whatever and stuff like that. And then same as with this shot, you know, we had this one twitch here, just like a twitch of spectral foot here, you know, like just like it could be coming out slowly, it could be coming out quickly, but at this point this is the broad strokes, because just putting these images here is giving you an idea that, like, I'm just gonna tease this, you know. Yeah, it comes out, it moves a little bit, it goes back in. Now if you really want somebody to understand what they're looking at, three is a safe number for compositions in filmmaking. If somebody looks at something 3 times, they'll accept it as a status quo in a film. So if you show 3 shots of something, that's a safe bet that people will know what the fuck they're looking at. I'm gonna borrow this shot from Avatar: The Last Airbender that I really fucking like.
That's his head, yeah.
There's this shot in Avatar where like Aang is like trying to like spirit bend the Fire Lord, and there's like this really, really dope detail close up that like lives rent free in my mind.
No spoilers, right, for people watching?
Oh yeah, Jesus Christ. I mean, the show's fucking, you know, almost 20 years old, but yeah, it's true.
Yeah. You never know. There's always someone out there.
Yeah, that's no major spoiler. He just attempts to do this, to do something to the Fire Lord, and this shot fucking happens. Your character's black because all I draw is other black people.
Right.
Still his stone stuff. I'll make it gray just to show that.
Right.
So like something close up. Now this shot, you know, like we were talking about earlier, like this composition is not extremely detailed, and you pointed this out. Not every shot needs to have an extremely detailed composition. It just has to play off of things in a visually interesting way. See his face, the drawing sucks, but like we see his fucking face, and
Can I just make when you draw non-furries, they still look reminiscent of Necropolis.
Yeah, that's just, dude. Furries are not my fucking default. Furries were actually extremely difficult for me to learn how to draw. I still default to like shit like this, like human characters like Necropolis. I'm just having so much fun with my furry characters, I don't feel like stopping yet, you know. But like,
Right.
this is actually my fucking default. It's kind of just like human characters like this, and yeah, it does still look like Necropolis. Fucking
Nothing wrong with that.
yeah. I do want to get back to like making stuff with humans. I'm just having a lot of fun. Kill Wolfy's making me more of a furry than I already was. So you got this shot. You know, your character is yeah, his eyes are closed. Okay. He doesn't have hair either.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's here. Got this close up. You know, even though the composition's not like, in fact, I would say in a close up, that is the best place to stunt when it comes to goddamn detail. You know, if you really
yeah, that's where you flex.
Yeah, but well, so like right here, and then like we hold on this shot for a second, and then you're talking about him like coming up for air.
Yeah. You also push the character acting further, like you push the poses and the expressions more than I'm generally comfortable doing.
Oh yeah, we can totally talk about that too. I would love to talk about that as well, because that a lot of the shit that I've been talking about kind of like plays into that. You know, like I'm implementing compositional things that I fucking think about when composing a whole ass shot right the fuck now. I'm twisting his mouth because it's more interesting to have like one side sticking up than it is, you know, to just have it be like a flat mouth. You know, like it makes him look more disheveled. All that compositional shit happens in a microcosm at every point during animated filmmaking, even like with a fucking within the drawing itself. So like,
yeah, I feel like I need to start pushing every idea I have, like to distort reality. I need to like multiply it by 5. Like the idea is not wrong. I'm not digging it deep enough, not pushing it far enough to its limit.
Yeah, and you know, honestly, like I don't know about you, but I sure as fuck didn't know this shit, you know, until I was forced to do it to pay my fucking rent, you know. So like there's absolutely nothing weird about, you know, you having not just found this. This is not shit. You can find it out, but you won't be able to describe it though, you know, like unless you have been doing it for like a really long time. But like yeah, we have him come up here. We've got his face, you know. And when I'm storyboarding, I am thinking of like what are the most significant beats of the scene? Not just what is he going to do. What is the bare minimum the audience needs to see to feel what they're looking at? You know?
Yeah. Another interesting thing is that another genre, like another medium that tends to not focus on character acting or on like dramatic character acting is anime. So like if you're trying to learn off of anime instead of Western stuff, you are gonna not, you know, your faces are gonna more or less look the same.
The problem with anime is not the anime itself as a whole has these issues. It's that capitalist animation always needs to be fucking done quickly, and the way that anime approaches it can fucking like really brutalize these things and not give them enough time to fucking like breathe. You know?
Yeah. Although you're drawing inspiration from Avatar, which was anime inspired, so
Dude, all my shit's anime inspired. Look, if you watch like a feature length anime movie, you're gonna find all these things that I'm talking about. But like TV anime is much less likely to have things like this.
Yeah. Yeah, I just feel like learning from feature length stuff, there's such a barrier, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm gonna learn sculpting. Let's go look at like Michelangelo. You know, it's just too far. It's too far out of reach. You know, so like you look at TV because it's more achievable. You know, you want to look at someone who's a bit better than you to learn. You don't want to, you know, you don't want to go watch The Lion King to learn how to like draw lions. You know, it's just they're too good at it. You know.
I think yes and no to that, because the yes part is, yeah, you're right. You should aim for what, like, no matter how bad you think like anybody thinks that they are at art, a finished movie is better than a non-existent one. That, like, a finished movie that's flawed is better than a fucking non-existent movie that's perfect in the creator's head. You know?
Right.
So
right.
like,
yeah.
I do think that you're right, and that you should be reasonable about your own standards for yourself. However, the things that make movies interesting are these fundamentals. It's not the amount of money or detail they have the ability to put into it, because there is anime, you know, like Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo, that manages to do this shit economically in a way that can be mimicked by an indie animator.
That's true. Yeah, there's definitely examples.
So like, you know, here's and then let's see.
Oh, that shot looks so good.
Yeah, like, it's taking time. You know, I was just like I just took time to think about like, yo, like, what would be something interesting to put on screen, with each panel that I choose to draw. You know, like, you can tell like he's coming in. You know, he's in a rush. His eyes look fucking worried, you know, like in this drawing. So like, this is something, drawings like these are like how you maintain the story when you're adding the detail in animation.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't think my guy looks all that worried. He just kind of looks like mildly confused.
Yeah. And I made him look worried and frantic like this because you said waking up for drowning, so it's just like a a little fucking.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I could have done more like beads of sweat, larger eyes, smaller pupils, all the usual things you should do.
Yeah, like, you know, but it's all good. You know, like, so we have
yeah,
and then we'll cut to a shot that's kind of like the one that we did in Flash earlier. Like, I'll just oh wait, I think I fucking sent it to you. Let me just copy and paste it into the file, and then we can just use that same drawing.
When I should have been making songs, I was training my 6 man, trying to catch that Kangaskhan. I don't know what's going on with me beyond sickly my mental state. I compromise my art form to say that I could innovate. I feel like I'm not me no more, but pray for my resemblance sake. Stepping backwards in it, that's a detrimental pace.
And then, so this is kind of a wide shot. You know, like, it gives a lot of info. It's not fully wide, but it's effectively wide. You know, you don't need to go much more than like what is effective for conveying your point. But like,
you hold me tight, and love's got me high.
Man, I used to give a fuck about rap. 2 shits for these games. I'm above
so
all these lames worth the waka.
I'm gonna fucking repeat the action that just happened in the other shots, because like, just because we showed it in that order doesn't mean that like it's over and we never need to show it again, because you can repeat an action for impact. So we'll start this shot out with this, and then like.
But you were more than a friend to me. I know there's nothing I can do if you were only into me before I left, but now I'm back and I would
Yeah, exactly.
do anything unless it's got to do with you. I'd rather walk with Emily. I guess I got some.
You can have his shoulders out. You can have him leaning down. Like you can have him taking a few huffs and puffs. Yeah, exactly. There's all sorts of things you could do.
Yeah, like.
And it's cool. You can see more of his body, so you can push the poses more because you'll actually see it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now you're getting it. See how fast you're getting this? What you just figured out from me telling you this, when I say that like you having done this shit your fucking way for so fucking long was extremely valuable, is because somebody told me this shit fucking a decade ago and it went in one ear and out the other because I wasn't as experienced then as you are now.
Right.
So like, you know,
I mean, I'll take your word for it.
Telling you the truth, my nigga, I see this shit every day. This is my line of work. You know, you will be able to tell every time I have a medical question, you always have the fucking answer like immediately, because that's, you know, but like because there's stakes involved, you know, but like this shit,
yeah.
like it's exactly the fucking same. But because you've been doing it so much, you'll immediately get it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's already a lot that I have to like add to the meat grinder with my next attempt.
Your next film's gonna look fucking dope, bro.
Wow.
You don't have to believe it. All you have to do is do it.
Yeah, exactly. He's just grabbing whatever he can and trying to figure out what's going on, yeah.
Okay, so what we've been doing for this portion, take a look at that now. Okay, so we got the drawings fucking laid out. I'll explain what I'm doing in a second. I should save this.
You're timing it.
Yeah.
You're deciding how long each frame holds.
But there's something very specific that I'm doing here, though, that is something fun to do that you can figure out when it comes to doing these sorts of fucking scenes.
You're adding like ease frames, like you're making each. You're tweaking each drawing slightly to show like what the first couple of in-betweens might look like.
No. Well, I mean, yes, I am doing that, but like that's not the thing I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
You've done it before. You just weren't really aware of it. But this is the type of stuff that I like when I hated the film school parts of going to a film school for animation, but I ended up becoming very endeared to these sorts of activities when it came to filmmaking because like I found ways to because I already knew how I wanted to use it because I had been making movies, you know.
So wait, you're saying you learned something in college?
I learned all this shit in college and it didn't stick to me at all, and I went out and had a really hard time in the industry because I wasn't experienced enough to be able to implement it effectively.
Right.
So, okay.
I always got the distinct impression that you didn't learn much in college.
I didn't. Half of it was because my fucking college was completely out of touch with the fucking industry and was like a lot of things were run by like ineffectual narcissists, and then the other like the other part of it was that like I was just mad cocky because like I had been making cartoons and like there was no proof there that I went there and I was just kind of like more or less like a big fish in a small pond for having been making cartoons already in my childhood. You know, but when I got to LA, that shit was a different story. When I got to LA, this is the shit that people who are more brainy about this stuff and don't just make movies for funsies and make movies, you know, for technical skill and for validation or whatever, like they take to stuff like this really quickly because it doesn't involve the brute force. We're fucking guerrilla movie makers, you know, like we just do shit. We don't care if it, even if our films did suck, we would still fucking make them, you know. And I want to speak to those motherfuckers. Those are the niggas I want to fucking talk to because the industry likes good, obedient teachers' pets, you know? So, here's what I've been fucking doing. So I'm going to let it play. In fact, hold up a second. I'm gonna ask something even more. Once you get this shit down, your animatics are gonna be more. It can like look more interesting than a fucking finished film sometimes. Once you like understand like this type of shit, this is what everybody who storyboards is fucking doing. And in live action, this can be in editing, but.
Oh, you're doing some camera zooming.
See?
Yeah.
Completely different feeling than like, you know, same shot, just getting him out of the body or whatever, you know. And the way that I fucking did that is by setting up an expectation in the viewer's head. So you can see my timeline down here, right? Like with the little bits for like the, you know, where each, like how long each thing is here for, these little blue things. So
yeah.
This is how you fuck with the viewer and make them feel things without them knowing how you made them fucking feel things, is by creating expectations. When I fucking, for this first part of this, we're just looking at his hand for fucking 3 seconds. Quick movement. Looking at his foot for just 3 seconds. Quick fucking movement. Look at his fucking face for fucking 3 seconds. Voop, comes up, something different. It makes it more jarring to have an expectation and then have it just immediately broken in this way. A flow of shots and how long that shit is exposed on camera for creates expectations and either delivers on them or fucks with them in the fucking viewer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even how long we have him here You know, you can have like a storyboard panel stay there for like a really, really long time, but and then make the acting more interesting in animation. But like this timing, direly fucking important. Like the timing itself, you know, like even though this thing, like his ghost finger only comes up for a second, motherfuckers will fucking notice that shit. Even if I put this shit here for like what, like fucking like 4 frames. That's so 4 frames is fucking like oh god, I suck at math. I know how to make movies, but I suck at math. 24 divided by 4, I think is what, 6. So that's 1/6 of a second that you're seeing these fucking parts or whatever, you know, where he like moves at or whatever.
Yeah.
And even with that, because the reason that they will read is because I made you fucking look at this shit for fucking 3 seconds.
Yeah.
If you didn't look at this shit for fucking 3 seconds and the shot just, you know, like cut to like that thing happening, you would probably fucking miss it. You know, like if you just had it here and you're like, I don't want to bore anybody, you know, so I'm gonna like just have this shit kind of just be like right up here. It feels different, you know?
Yeah, it's not nearly as... The anticipation is more important than the actual action.
Yeah. So that's kind of how like shot flow and like timing and what types of shots you choose to do and when kind of like affect how a fucking scene feels.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I find I always try to time my transitions with changes in the music that I select.
Mm-hmm.
But and that can have a nice effect, but that doesn't need to be the only rule that I use. I can probably be more creative with trying to decide why I change, or trying to decide how many anticipatory frames I hold a shot for, not just so that it syncs with the music. I feel like that's a bit of a simple-minded way to do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's what you knew already, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because everyone knows that when like the music changes, then the scene changes. Like that's cool, right? But like, you need more tricks in the bag.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and like, you know, this is how you learn that shit. And I will anytime. I love sharing this shit with people because I wanna know a world where everybody has the potential to become a fucking Stanley Kubrick. I wanna live in a world where there's interesting shit to watch all the fucking time, you know. So I'm glad to give this shit out like for free because like it really is not. If this video was fucking 30 minutes long, a person everything I'm about to tell you is enough to where like a person with their own fucking research and practice could probably find a job storyboarding in TV.
Yeah,
like just knowing this shit.
Yeah, if they just have some basic drawing fundamentals, and like, I'm not even convinced you need to know how to draw to storyboard like some cartoon where they never redraw anything. Like, do they honestly like redraw? I don't know. I don't want to say like an actual IP on the stream, but like, you know, some cartoon where like they've drawn the main character once.
Yeah.
Like, do they actually get the storyboard artist to draw that character, or they just have like a black and white version of that character?
Yeah.
That you just place.
It can just be very, very fucking simple. You don't need to go into those details. It's all about storyboarding. Is all about the filmmaking and the ideas. It's why I've gravitated to it so hard. You know, even though I'm resistant to it.
It's like the closest thing to just making it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's the most decisions. It's the most decision-making role I would assume. Not that I have worked in production, but I would imagine like that's where like most of the decisions are made.
You're right. Yeah, like that's where I come in. That's why there's so many storyboard jobs, you know, for all these TV shows. There's usually a bunch of us. Because this is the important part. And after you storyboard something, you don't need to know what the film's gonna fucking look like. You take this and do literally any amount of detail. These scenes are still gonna fucking hit the same, pretty much. Like, you can add detail that'll enhance it for sure, but like, it's not, you know, like, thinking this much in broad strokes about the filmmaking and the composition and stuff like that makes it so that even simple art can be super fucking interesting. It's all about knowing, like your viewer's relationship with your movie, and really, really like thinking about that the whole fucking time. I'm not talking about like people pleasing or like, being like, oh, well, I have to do this or a person won't fucking like it. It's like, nah, just like try and make a movie you would want to fucking watch at this fucking phase. And then if it gets to that point where it makes you feel that way as the person who fucking made it, you know how you like, a hand job from yourself doesn't feel exactly the fucking same as a hand job from your girl. Like a fucking like, a fucking you can't like tickle yourself, really. But if you manage to give yourself a good hand job, or like manage to tickle yourself, or like fucking like make you impress yourself for your own food, or make yourself cry with your own fucking storyboard, then you fucking did something right, because you're like, hypothetically, you're not supposed to be able to be this surprised by anything you make. So this type of pre-production is extremely important, and it really, really fucking works miracles in ways that people like are not aware of, and it doesn't take a lot of detail,
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So let's see. But yeah, you can use all this stuff. I think if I had to do one, I'm not gonna like re-storyboard this entire scene or whatever. But like, for an example too. This astral space that the character is in, I feel needs like more information. It needs to seem bigger. Like, in my opinion, if I was making it, I would think that this astral space needs to seem huge compared to the other character. And this is like, I think we kind of just basically already like went over this lesson already, but like, imagine we got a shot where the camera is basically just on the ground, and we see our guy like maybe like the island of like the astral plane that him and his girl are kind of on, and like the statue version of himself are kind of on, is in fact, yeah, let's just make it that. I love doing this, like when I'm working on shit for like punk ass, like, I put out some comics with some of this stuff too, but like I'm also like storyboarding, like a fucking film of punk ass Pirate Donkey as well. And like, since it's in space, I try to like use the scale a lot, because like I want people to really, when I make that movie, I'm making that shit because I want to feel the vastness and the scale of space or whatever. But if it were me, in this situation, trying to like sell that part specifically, I would put just like a shot, when in doubt, pull it out. You got him here, you got his like statue, astral self, his soul is like chained to his enfeebled body, and you got the main character, and he's like floating above it, and he's like looking around, and he's like, whoa, like down here or whatever. Not that you have to put this emote, but just to kind of convey like what you could do with the drawing later.
Yeah.
He's floating or something like that. He looks around him, and the smaller he is in the composition, you get to make the scale of where he is look insane. His girl's over here, she's like breathing and shit, in the chair.
Mm-hmm.
And you have all of them on just like this, teeny tiny little thing. You make them look tiny in frame. And then around them, he's in a spot where there's like all these other islands of people's like personal like soul projections or whatever, in the film. So like we'll do this. 'Cause, 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 I'll add a little bit of color for scenes like this if I really want to, fucking like sell a space or something like that. But like imagine if we like had something in here to where like I don't know, like maybe there's like statues, like giant statues of other people who have died, like their like bodies have crumbled. This is not like something that has to be done or whatever, but like this is like something I would do just to like add scale.
Yeah, just something more creative, like floating bodies. Maybe have other astral planes like upside down or vertical or
Hell
different. Yeah, you could do also. Yeah, you're right. Those would all be. Also, I just want to go back to, you mentioned that you're making a punk ass animation.
yes.
Is that official knowledge?
Yeah, I've released snippets of it, but like I don't have a final version of it nailed down yet. So like I share things, but yeah, like people know what punk ass is and stuff like that. Yeah.
I just wasn't sure if you were making the first official announcement.
No, I've been talking about it. People know about dumpster fire and shit because I'm just like, yo, this filmmaking process is so slow. But I already know like what I want to do with these things,
Yeah. Yeah, you get like with this shot, you get kind of like Evangelion kind of look to it with just weirdness.
Evangelion, show with great compositions and great filmmaking, even though it's a TV show.
Yeah, Evangelion, I mean, I won't say, because I think people get really mad when I talk about that show, so I just won't say much else, but I think like...
That's a bunch of overrated wank.
Yeah. Pretty much. It tends to go like that, and then people get really, really mad.
I know. It's because Evangelion has fucking phenomenal filmmaking for a fucking TV anime. Like in ways that are transcendent. Because Anno thinks about his filmmaking this way, clearly. Like when you watch it, the timing of like just like the quiet as we see like the first like destruction of the fucking of Tokyo, like where the angels have fucking ravaged and everything like that, like we see this destruction and it's so quiet and so normal, even though like we're looking at an ocean of blood and it's fucking terrifying. He specifically obviously sat down and figured out how to make an ocean of blood look like a chill provincial Japanese town and to not have you question it too much,
Yeah, I think the things that it does well are very commendable and worth noting, but at the end of the day, like I get so bored.
Yeah.
Like both hearing people talk about like how the message is so incredible, and actually watching the show both makes me very bored. Like when they talk about, oh, like this character is such a like well-written character, I'm just like, oh my god. Like stop. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like people relate so much to the characters in that show, and I'm like, I don't relate at all to any of these characters. Like
yeah. And the reason that they feel that way is because Anno's filmmaking is so thoughtful. Like whether it lands for you or not, there's no way to make these things necessarily like land 100% of the time, but film theory is, everybody disagrees over like which fucking thing. Oh god, fucking I'm drawing this. Yeah, whatever. Listen to Viper while you fucking turn this up. Okay.
Yeah, no, I definitely respect it, but I do get very tired of the discourse, and my like the ultimate the emotion I felt most was boredom with moments of just sort of being impressed.
That's how I feel too.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that was impressive, and then I'm bored for like 2 hours of episode, and then okay, oh, that was kind of interesting again, and then it's like, oh, these people suck, and like they're not growing or learning anything, and like they're just terrible to each other, and then like, oh, that was really cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of my vibe with it. Anyways, I'm doing the thing I promised I wouldn't.
No, it's all good. No, I'm still like making this. So like.
Yeah, you're just going balls to the wall, like no rules. There's no rules in this liminal space. It's just like, you know, anything goes. Yeah, dead baby, you know, whatever, right? Yeah, exactly. I know what you're going for. Yeah.
This is stone statues of other like of like basically people who went invalid in the like in your my fanfic of your universe is that this is full of people who have fucking, you know, went through this shit, and then like so I put this here. So basically, here's another fucking compositional lesson right here about fucking scale.
Yeah.
So like
you're using the amount of detail as a sort of like atmospheric perspective almost.
Yes.
With this shot, like the more detailed it is, I'm able to assume that that's the closer it is, and then it becomes much more abstract the further away it is.
Yes. And like, you know, you're not gonna see all these little details, you know, like, but that doesn't matter because these characters are not what we're here to see, but like we know what that is by putting it into the center. And so here's a nice little composition lesson. So sticking it right here, would you agree that having their little slice of the astral plane right here feels different than having it down here?
Yeah, you almost miss it when it's down there.
Yeah. And like it's like it makes everything look bigger than it because it's lower down on screen, like as low as it can look without, you know, like at least I'd like to think without looking confusing, you know? So like you got this, and now here's some other shit that'll make it fucking interesting. I'll make a copy of this file. This is just ways that you can you know how like sometimes every once in a while I'll just throw you a fucking like a fucking 20-minute animatic of some shit that I've been fucking working on?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because I am addicted to sitting here fucking around with rough versions of shots like this. Like sitting here doing this type of shit gets so fucking fun. Like, so you got this shot and you do this to kind of like, you know, make it stand out a little, make the stage stand out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Then like you were saying, other ones are like around, you know, kind of like
and all sorts of different angles. Yeah.
Now, this is one of my favorite things too. Is now you see this angle now, but let's say we make this a little bit bigger, put it a little bit closer. And put one right here. That makes that fucking body look way that fucking like astral body way fucking huge.
Yeah, it's like a universe.
It makes it look way fucking huge by intersecting with the composition of the statue and by how many of these little things that we fucking have around and like how they play off of the things around them. So like this is film.
Now it's literally just Evangelion.
Yeah, I got these fucking. I got a lot of this shit from that. I like the Evangelion show, and I love the filmmaking, but like I am right the fuck there with you with like not being able to relate to the worship of it. Like it's just I've never wanted to watch it a second time, and I hated the fucking movies. But the first show, solid 8.5 for me. I liked it. Never want to watch it again, but I did enjoy it. So. Yeah,
I would agree. Yeah, no, I think just coming up with creative backgrounds, like and background concepts, is important.
Yeah, and just adding like interesting shapes, you know, like I tilted the camera here because like this place is not intended to be, you know, like solid or normal or grounded. You know, like these shots back here are more likely, you might notice this, but like, you know, flat, like right here, flat perspective. You could pretty much assume that this guy is like, and this is where we talk about, like you said, the phrase overcomposing. This is kind of what you were talking about. So like, let's say outside the car, we had, this is like the fucking perspective plane. We got the fucking vanishing point right here. And this is where we're at. So this is kind of like level with him and stuff like that. The camera's level, it's not tilted. Blam! He gets knocked out of the car. Perspective plane tilts. Gives a different fucking feeling than if it was flat like before. You know,
right.
If you make it like this, you know, right here, it doesn't look like he's going very far. But if you lower it, the lower you make it, it makes it look like he's going into the air. And the direction that you tilt it can even help with that. Like if you do it this way, it'll make it look like he's flying straighter. But if you tilt it this way, it looks like he's probably gonna fucking fly a lot faster and higher than you fucking thought. You know, just
exactly.
And this one already pre-tilted, you know, because of that. So this is why I like tilted this comp right here, you know. So little things like that. That's how you make movies fucking visually interesting. So yeah,
backgrounds are a big weak spot for me. So I think just like practicing backgrounds would be important.
Here's my secret to making interesting backgrounds too. Foreground elements. Like movies look empty when the character who is the subject of the shot is always the closest thing to the camera. That you can make a fucking movie way more fucking visually interesting. In fact, here's an example. So, let's say you have this shot right here, like you had with old boy earlier. He's got like, you know, steering wheel, hands on it, yada yada, big body ass nigga. And then, you know, just like fucking like he's right here in this shot, but to make this shot more interesting than like what we have right here, composition, now that you are like, that you have like more of a keen understanding of composition, your drawings and things like that are going to like immediately, like you'll immediately start seeing places where you can implement this shit. But if our composition, you know, is kind of like giving the right amount of information, you know, it's giving information that we can like use or whatever. If you want to make your background interesting without adding too much fucking detail, working on the composition right here, like in the back and behind them, helps immensely, but it doesn't fix everything, you know? So like, I, as much as possible, because, you know, for better or for fucking worse, like to add hella fucking foreground elements. Because foreground elements will automatically make a shot look more interesting, damn near for free. So we got this shit, and then maybe like in front of him, we'll add like, I don't know, let's say it's like a fucking upshot somewhat, you know, like where it doesn't have to be perfect, just like a foreground element of like the seat in front of his fucking seat, you know, right here in front of him will add something and kind of like make it more dynamic.
Yeah.
Tell you more about him, you know, tell you more about like about where we're at, you know, make the shot more clear and stuff like that.
Yeah.
His seat. Alright, so okay. So we got this. So in the foreground, so we have him and we have, you know, like the basic, like your background and your characters are all feeding into the same fucking, you know, same fucking shit. So like you have this here and then take this stuff. Like, you know, we could put like the car's like parking brake up here, you know, or something like that to kind of like to give something interesting to look at. We could put like, you know, used cups or something like that here, like in front of him or something like that, you know, maybe like a, like, I don't know, like maybe he has like a fucking thing of hand sanitizer, you know, and then we put that there, you know, with the little nozzle for the hand sanitizer, or like the a fucking fast food cup or something like that. And then like maybe, you know, the rear view mirror is often, you know, like a little bit closer to the like between the, or it's between the passenger side and the all this shit. So like we'll add, you know, a fucking mirror here.
Yeah.
To kind of like put this here, and then like, you know, on the mirror we might have like a fucking like, you know, we'll have like a little fucking tree dangly, you know, scented thing or something like that. Got the parking brake. And you know, like pretty much anything, you know, can add information to that. Like maybe even like the separation of like the radio, you know, right here there could be like a protruding radio, and then like the dude has like a bobblehead, you know, bobbling here, you know, while he's fucking driving, of like a fucking baseball player or something like that, you know, right here, bobbling in frame in front of where he is. So not only does it ground us, it gives us more information and grounds us to where he's at, but it also, you know, fucking like makes the shot just more fucking pleasing to look at. You can look at a shot, you know, that has more info in it like this for way fucking longer. So
Yeah.
if you're wondering how to make your backgrounds interesting, start by like hiding your character further into them. You know, even though he is the subject, because of his placement in the composition, you know, we can still see him. Our eye is still drawn to him. The negative space is pointing at him. The perspective is perspective's pointing at him. You know, the negative space is pointing at him. Everything is like leading into this fucking direction and leading your eye back to the fucking main character. So we don't have to worry about the fact that he's hidden amongst all this stuff. But this is like how you really beef this stuff up, though.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's but you could pretty much take that and pretty much do anything you want to fucking do with it. I think I'll post these. Well, yeah, I guess people will be able to pause and look at it. So that's the filmmaking. Do you have, so like, I was gonna talk real quick about like character drawing for a minute. Do you want to do that, or you want to save that for another time?
I'd be okay to do it now if you wanted to do that.
Okay, cool. Okay, so, and we'll keep this one quick because there's like a million different things. Also, like, I'm getting fucking tired of talking, but
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's up to you. If you think it's best for like another video, you want to just try putting this one out first. We can come back to character acting later. But if you still got stamina, I still do.
You know what? That's a good point. Yeah, we could do more of these. I could do like a character drawing for filmmaking sort of thing. But
It's up to you, really. You're the one doing all the work. I'm happy to sit here and listen whenever. I'm not the one.
I love the idea of doing that, of doing another one later. But like, even without like getting like the character posing and stuff like that down, and we will talk about that. But like, fucking, this should be enough to where like you can, you know, maybe like y'all can like look at the stuff that you've been making and kind of like, you know, see ways that you can fix it. You don't need to fucking redo much from scratch or do like a fuck ton of effort or a fucking ton of detail. You know, don't get lost in the weeds. This shit can be pretty quick, and the reason that I work this way, I use even less detail that I'm using for this right now when I'm working on my own fucking films. In fact, maybe I'll fucking show y'all one. This is how I start out my fucking movies. Let's see. Arvin, you actually haven't seen this shit yet. So,
Wow.
this is
Look at him.
yeah, this is the current punk ass pilot. So, this is the first shot. It's just him vibing out here. This is how I fucking do like start all my fucking films. It's like with very, very simple fucking drawings that get the composition across. You can see, you know, stuff like that, like where certain things are. And then like I might get to a BG where I'm like, oh, I like this. I think this is interesting. You know, I want the details to fucking speak in this one, so I'll go a little bit further. But like, I usually try and keep this shit as simple as possible, you know, when it comes to this fucking stuff. And then like every once in a while, you know, I'll go a little bit more ham. But like, yeah, fucking you know, just like finding, like I needled this stuff a lot, you know, keeping it fucking simple and just like going for you know, getting the ideas out and stuff like that is the best way. Like working in broad strokes. You can even use blobs. You can find compositions in like just like fucking stick figures if you want to. You know, it's like you look back at this later, you can tell this is a donkey getting shot in the head. You know, like if so yeah, but this gets the composition. I can add to this composition later, but this is what I know I want to be on screen in a vague sense when I get to it, you know?
Right.
So, yeah. All right. That's the stuff. I'll talk more about like character specific shit and like acting and shit later, but I think this is like some shit that we could like make a nice little video. Anything you wanna say to the fucking people who are watching the edit?
I guess like you know, if you liked this video, like if you feel like it helped and there's some way to comment on this however it gets posted, like just let us know if you want more content like this.
Yeah, rate, comment, and subscribe. I don't always feel like doing tutorials, but like you know, because Arvin's the homie and we both grew up doing the same thing, you know, that led us to this. I like to do like these deep dives and stuff like that to share what I've like learned, you know, working in entertainment and stuff like that. But that's some of it, you know, so I hope that y'all can take some of this shit. You know, you don't have to think too fucking hard about it. Just like think about it a little bit, do something with it. If you fucking hit a wall, pick a fucking easy out, pick some low-hanging fruit and just finish it, you know, get to the fucking end and then think about how to implement this shit further, because like you won't be able to fucking learn it and make it all work immediately, you know. It comes with practice. So make movies a lot, you know, do fucking thumbnail storyboards just for the fucking hell of it. The reason I was able to crank this out so fast is because I like this, you know, a lot of this stuff could be just fucking timed out into a whole ass animated short, but like I learned to fucking work fast in the industry, and it's led to me working fast at home as well when it comes to my personal projects. So work fast, try stuff out, challenge yourself, but most of the time just find something that you actually enjoy doing and give a fuck to continue doing, and then think about technical shit. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I would say like it you might feel like you don't want to share it like after you make it, because I definitely feel that way quite a bit. But I think as much as it sucks sometimes to like share something you made, the only thing worse is like if you just don't share it, like that's like infinitely worse.
Yep.
Like, so just share it, like share it with people.
Yeah.
Even if you like really don't think you should, like you should just share it.
Cause like there's that shit. There's a lot of shit where people are like, oh, um, will I finish this fucking thing if I share it, or like, will it take the validation out of it, or like, will I get my feelings hurt and not feel like it? Let me just stop you right the fuck there. If you don't feel like making a movie, that shit can hit you at any fucking time in the goddamn process. And if it hits you in the pre-production, you're lucky. Listen to it. I have storyboarded hours of punk ass Pirate Donkey worth of fucking storyboards, and I don't want to make any of that shit into films. It's the sunken cost fallacy that will make you, get attached to drawings, but the drawings are not where the power in art is at. It's like what you do with it. So like, don't worry about, make lots and lots of really rough storyboards if you fucking have to, and don't worry about finishing them. Worry about having fun experimenting and then getting to a movie that you actually fucking want to make. You'll know it when it shows up. But if you share it with people and you find out that you don't want to make it, that was gonna happen anyway. I'll tell you that right now. As a guy who's made like over 50 short films, like in my fucking basement and shit, if you gonna get bored, it was gonna happen anyway. If it happens at all, just let it happen and just do something else. But work in broad strokes quickly so that you don't lose that much. Just like this.
I agree with that.
Yep. Okay. Thanks for tuning in. I might do more shit like this probably, but until then, yeah. Good luck. Ask questions if you want something, man. This is not like a fucking rate, comment, subscribe sort of fucking thing. My channel ain't monetized. I'm handing this shit out because fuck the industry and fuck capitalism, and y'all should know how to make movies without having to pay some fucking like grifter who's already rich from the fucking industry for permission to fucking make films. Y'all should know this shit. So yeah, tell capitalism suck a dick and make your own fucking movies. Bye. Love y'all.
See you later.